Let's check in now on Don Lemon, who appeared with Jimmy Kimmel, and two bigger victim playing attention seekers you will not find.
They wouldn't have to have all these people following me around.
It's more than just a waste of resources. So they grab you and they take you where?
Well, you're right about more than just a waste of resources. They want that. They want to embarrass you. They want to intimidate you. They want to instill fear. And so that's why they did it that way.
I got to say, Don Lemon is loving this. He hasn't had this much attention for years. Now let's hear from LA Mayor Karen Bass, who claims that Don Lemon being arrested for storming a church during Sunday service is somehow a racial matter.
I have a particular message to Black America that it's interesting that I believe the journalists that were arrested all look like me and you.
10 seconds.
And so this is not the first time this has happened.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, the journalist that is with me, Jasmine, was arrested a few years ago.
Ami, what's your response to that? Is there a racial element in the prosecution of Don Lemon?
God. No. Look, Karen Bass is low-key one of the worst mayors in America. We don't talk about her enough is the problem. We talk about a lot of Mamdani. We talk about the mayor of Chicago, Brandon. Yeah, we got to talk a little more about, my resolution in 2026, talk more about Karen Bass. She's a horrible, absolute horrible mayor. Look, I know it seems like, I'm going to let people under the kimono a little bit here for the show. I know it seems like that when I do this like 15-minute interview every week that I just kind of sit down, pop down, and then I just drop, knowledge all across the place. But the reality is I do show prep, okay? That's the truth. And yeah, look, she's kind of right that in 2025, under Trump, 32 journalists were arrested by Donald Trump. Yeah, that is absolutely true. Problem was in 2024, 49 journalists were arrested under the Biden administration. So I'm not sure that narrative actually works for her. Look, the truth is that, look, Don Lemon, full disclosure, kind of a friend of mine. I like Don. We talk on the phone a lot. We obviously are very different people. And I'm not going to, and this is not, our friendship is not going to color my next point, but I got to tell you, and by the way, he is loving it, of course. My God, after he was fired from CNN, he's never been more popular, of course. This was a godsend for him. Let's be totally honest, okay? He was the bore of irrelevancy. Sorry, Don. But now he's had this resurgence. Good for him. But the truth is, I don't think this was a good idea. I think this was a own goal by the Trump administration. You're just getting you're allowing people to hook sink their hooks onto an issue which is relatively irrelevant. And it's moving from the agenda and from what he really wants to accomplish. When they start saying, look, you're arresting journalists, Don Lemon wasn't doing anything. And look, do I think Don Lemon should have been arrested? I don't. As somebody who engaged in guerrilla journalism a lot, yeah, was he there? Did he have foreknowledge? Of course he did. Yes, he knew exactly what was going on. But this is kind of what journalists do. You don't get arrested for going on a ride along with criminals. Just kind of the reality. It's a fine line. There's a FACE Act, and he may have crossed that line there. I get it. But the more important thing is I think it's distracting.
That legislation. That legislation exists. I do agree it's distracting, and you can look at it as an own goal because the left is going to run a particular narrative here about the media being oppressed and free speech being breached, all that nonsense. But he, on the face of it, appears to have broken the law. You can't go storming churches during Sunday service, terrifying families, including small children, and then just say I was doing journalism. You'd be arrested if you did that in a mosque or if it happened really any place other than a church. It seems like anything goes.